One thing you need to know before ordering onion seeds is what zone are you in. There's different types of onions. There's short day onions, there's long day onions, and there's intermediate that kind of grow in between where you could grow either one. Hi, welcome back to Buckeye Gardener Channel. Today we're going to start our onion seeds. Today is February 8th. I usually start these around February 20th. I'm going to do them a couple weeks earlier this year. I'm hoping to give them in the ground a little bit earlier. Last year, I got them in the ground around April 16th, somewhere around there. And we had a real hot spell right after that. It got up like 85, and my onions didn't make it. I think I ended up only like 12 onions out of 150. Now, the year before, I planted about the same time, but we had cooler, normal spring weather, and they did great. I'll put a picture up here of some of the ones we had. I mean, we had so many onions. They did awesome. I started from seed. Two of the varieties I'm growing today were the same ones then. That's why I'm growing them again. One of them lasted up until April of last year. I still had some left, and there were some of them starting to sprout, but there was like 10, 12 left. I think it was 5 that had sprouted. The rest of them were still good. So they lasted almost a year after planting time. So I was really, really happy with that. They stored great. I'll tell you what they are real quick. I got the seeds from Pine Tree Garden Seeds this year. I've never got anything from them before, but they sent me a catalog last month. I was flipping through it and thought I'd give them a try. The prices were good, and it was really fast shipping too. But I'm going to grow Walla Walla. I did those a couple years ago and last year again, but a couple years ago the harvest was huge. I'll put a video or a picture up here. We had one that was 1.33 pounds, 1 1/3 pound onion out of these. And that's the first time I grew from seed. Had some huge ones out of them. They're really good, really sweet, big onions, but they don't last long. But that's fine. We'll eat these up during the summer. I know they don't last long, so we'll make sure we eat all those first. And the second one I'm growing, I've grew these before, were Paterson. These are good storage onion. They're just like a white onion. They're good onion. They're not as sweet as the Walla Wallas, and they don't get quite as big, but they were decent size. Really happy with them. So we're going to grow those again, and hopefully they store well too. The other kind I'd grown before was Candy, and I really liked them, and they stored pretty good. I had them up until November when I finally ran out of them. But, so they stored for 6 months. They probably would have went longer, but I just used them all up. And I just want to do something different this year, so I picked Red Wing. I wanted a red onion to try this year, and I like red onion, especially eating fresh in the summertime. And these say they're supposed to store very well too, so that's why I went with these. And we're going to give these a try, and I'll show you how we plant them here real quick, get them started. One thing you need to know before ordering onion seeds is what zone are you in. There's different types of onions. There's short day onions, there's long day onions, and there's intermediate that kind of grow in between where you could grow either one. And there's some onions that don't care. Here where we are in southeast Ohio, I'll put a map up here that shows some of the zones and stuff. Here we're in the long day zone, and some of them's the intermediate where you could grow a little bit of both. But being that I'm not getting these in the ground till probably the beginning of April, about April 1st, somewhere in there. They're not going to grow, they're not going to start bulbing till the end of the summer. And what that means is the different long days, short days, the amount of daylight that triggers the onions to bulb. So if you plant short day onions and started them now and got them outside, they would be bulbing as soon as you put them in the ground, and you wouldn't get very big onions. They'd bulb up, they'd be done, they'd be little tiny bulbs because it wouldn't have the plant size or the roots to grow. So make sure you get the right kind of onions for the zone you've got. And like I said, we grow here in Ohio, we grew long day onions, and they do really good for us. All right, so we're going to start with the Walla Wallas here, and I kind of divided up. Like I said, these don't last as long, so I'm not going to plant as many of them. I'm going to put them here, do the red ones here, and then a bunch of the Paterson, because I want onions to last all winter long, especially in wintertime, making soups and stuff, use a bunch of onions. So that's why I want to do more of them. So you can see these onions are pretty small seeds, and they're hard to get a hold of. Right there's probably 50 to 60 seeds in there. You can see they're really tiny. So I've already got my dirt pre-moistened and put in here, and just made some wee little tiny holes in it just to kind of drop them. So we're going to go along. I'll put 1 to 2 in each one. And the reason I'm doing that is when you take these out to plant them, you can tease them apart, kind of just pull real gently, kind of shake them, and they'll come right apart. The roots are real straight on them when you go to transplant them. So if you start more than one in there, that's fine. You can use little leftover Chinese containers for these. They work great. I've just got this tray here I've used the last couple years. I really like it for starting onion seeds. I don't like it for the plants as much because the holes are smaller, but it works great for this. So that's why I'm using these. We'll just go through, drop 1 or 2 in each one. And that ought to get me plenty of these to go around. All right. Now we got our red wings. Make sure we keep these straight. Get them all mixed up. We'll do the same thing with these. Like I said, I was talking about the teasing apart and stuff. I'll put a picture up here now. The video I did last year of planting them, if you want, I'll put a link to it in the description. If you want to go check it out, you can see how they just come right apart and then plant them in the ground. It worked out really good. We'll do the same thing with these. 1 to 2 in each one. That's going to give me more than enough. And last but not least, we'll get our Paterson. Like I said, these stored really, really good for me. All right, so all our seeds are in. Now all we're gonna do is take some of our soil. This is the same pre-moistened soil I put over them. We're just gonna kind of sprinkle that along the top. You don't want to pack that down real tight. Like I said, I pre-moisten mine. If you got a greenhouse outside where you can water it with a hose or let the water flow through, that's fine. But we stored all of ours here in the basement. It's only 28 degrees outside today, so we're not starting anything outside. We'll just come through and just gently tap it down. Like I said, you don't want it super tight. Just enough to put a little bit of pressure on the seed to keep the moisture against it for sprouting and germination. Okay, so get that all done. Now, we're not going to use a heat mat on these. Onions don't need a heat mat. They're made to plant outside when it's cooled out. So I've got a little chart here on here that says onions, and it shows, you probably can't see it in the video that well. I'll put a link up here in the picture, the link's a little bit bigger. But let's see, onions at 50 degrees take 13 days to sprout. At 59 degrees take 7 days. 68, 5 days. 77, 4 days. 86, 4 days. Now, I used a heat mat one year. It got a little too warm in the middle. If you get to 95 degrees, it took 13 days, and they didn't come up evenly, and it didn't, I mean, they grew, but you could tell it wasn't even, it wasn't the greatest. So last year I didn't use a heat mat. They all come up at the same time. It was about a week or so, which falls right into the 7 to 5 in my chart here. And down in the basement, it stays about 65 right around here or so. So that worked out really good. So we're not going to use a heat mat on these. But let me grab my cover real quick. We will put a humidity dome over and just keep a little bit of moisture in it. And then I'll drop the light down here later and put the light right above it. Just keep plenty of light on it. That way whenever it does sprout, it'll be ready to grow. All right, so we got our lid here. We are going to go ahead and throw it on. Just to keep that moisture in. Before I do that though, I want to take my little sprayer here. Just give them a little shot of water. Now, you don't need a whole lot. You don't have to use a little sprayer like this. Use a little hand sprayer or something. I got one of these at Tractor Supply on clearance a couple years ago for like $5. It's the greatest thing. You can control how much pressure you want, how much water. We'll give them a good drink here. Make sure our seeds are good and saturated. You don't want to overwater them, but you just want enough moisture in there. We're not going to water these again until they're a few days old, so that's why we pre-moisten the soil ahead of time. That'll wet that soil we put on top there and get up against the seed, help them germinate. All right. We'll just take our lid, put it right on top. Like I said, no heat mat on these ones. I've got these big trays underneath this divider. I should have showed you that a better picture of it, but the thing I used to start them in, so it didn't fit quite as tight. It's on there good now. We'll just let it sit. Here in about a week or so, we should have onion sprouting. Alright, so that's how we start our onion seeds. Like I said, there's a couple other videos if you look back at some of the ones I did in the past if you want to see. I'll put a link in the description to where I planted them last year if you want to see how they planted. And I'll throw a couple videos up here at the end where we harvested them the 2 years ago, how good they did, so you can see. But give onions a try from seed. It's totally different than planting with the bulbs. That's my dad always did that. They turned out okay, but you never know what you're getting from the store. I think sometimes we got some short day onions. They just didn't grow good. And they bulb real early and just never did much. So do it from seed. You can grow the exact variety you want. You know what you've got. And I don't know. I really like growing from seed. It's worked out really good here the last couple of years. Hopefully this year we won't get that hot, dry spell. I know freshly planted onions don't like that heat. And we had several days. It was like 85, like 3 days in a row. And that just killed my plants. I kept them water and everything. They didn't like that heat at all. They were freshly transplanted and wasn't no part of it. So give onions a shot. And I'll post some videos here and show you how they're doing soon. But make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you next time here on the Buckeye Gardener channel.